Okay, so now it is time to talk about fan pressure with Mai, because, you know, her pressure herself is not that interesting, especially when it comes to buttons. Maybe in Burnout it's pretty good because she has these weird buttons that, you know, don't push you back at all. But she doesn't have any plus frames on anything, and not really, not anything really cool of that note, so the main thing she's gonna get pressure through is through this funky fan situation, because she's certainly not getting pressure through her DP. And I think to start, we'll start with actually the OD version of the fan toss, because I think this is really where the fan stuff gets started. Because this is a really cool thing. Not only is it so fast that it is just completely gapless with a lot of your mids, off of a lot of your lights, it's just like a tiny kind of frame trap gap where the opponent can't mash out of. And it's really cool because that is gonna frame trap the opponent, surprisingly. And that's a really good start, because then whenever, you know, you're like, you know, crouching light situations are very strong in Street Fighter 6, and now from any of these, being able to beat the opponent or trade them off of a lot of things, especially if they're trying to fight back with slower buttons, you're easily going to counter them with this. And because it's a physical projectile, when you get a counter hit with it, it has a little bit of extra stun. Because normally this thing does not have much stun at all. Like, it's only +3, so you literally can't combo or do anything from it other than go for a throw mix. But if we catch the opponent on a counter hit, so like after I've done a little bit of a light button, it becomes +5. Which now means that if I am ever doing this and the opponent tries to fight back, I now get a combo from it. Very, very easy peasily. We use something simple like this. And the low from the crouching light kick is just so that you can catch the opponent trying to walk away from the mix. Actually, that doesn't work against crouches, whoops. But something very simple, from your pressure, you get an easy conversion into, you know, a decent little bit amount of damage. And it's really, really good. Now, where it gets kind of interesting is, of course, when you do it from mediums or heavies, there's not going to be a gap, so the opponent is going to be able to mash away from it. That is, unless you space it quite well. So if I have it from like a far-reaching, like a slightly not right in front of the opponent's face, a lot of the time it becomes a gap, like here. And when it doesn't have a gap, now you're forced to take their poke. And if they're poking with anything slower than just a straight light, like crouching light punch here, like if they do like crouching medium kick, that's a very, very common, you know, counter poke to take back your turn. If they do that, well, they're usually gonna get hit by the fan, and that is so plus that you get to go in for a full combo. Of course, don't do that combo if they're crouching, I have to get used to that. But that's really powerful, because it stops the opponent going for any kind of counter poke that's not like just extremely fast stuff, because oh yeah, it stops them going for that. We go for actually the, now we can get the nice combo there. So yeah, they try to poke back, they die. Now if they do try to use something faster and they can catch you, like a crouching light punch, there's also, whoops, there's also kind of mix to have here. Because yes, if you do try to do something, you will get counter hit by them trying to do their poke, you have to block that poke. But even if they manage to get that poke, they can block so you don't get the punish, but you're still left very advantageous. So in this situation, oh, I guess you can also try to perfect parry, that was unintentional. This is not a high level guide, so that's not going to be part of the strat. But basically, the fan still falls, and you're like +26 or something. So you can actually get an overhead that they have to block in there. So then you get to go for 50-50 mix after that advantageousness. You can go for overhead, low, or a throw, which, you know, mix is great, and the fact that you're able to just get this from doing a random OD off of anything is really cool. And if it happens to hit the opponent on a counter hit, then you get a combo. If they block, any pokes they do back will either let them get punished for a full combo, or you're just plus enough to go for some mix. And yeah, it's just a really good simple way of getting your pressure safely started without going for any gimmicks. Now, when we start talking about gimmicks, that is where we start talking about the regular versions of fan toss. So a very simple one is if we have, you know, bravery in our spaced out buttons, a very well spaced out heavy punch will actually go into light fan toss and make it +1 on block. I believe +1 or 2 is the maximum. So if you're very good at spacing, you can go for this and, you know, try to, you know, not mess up. You can either do this from your standing heavy punch or your standing medium punch, but just do not, for the love of God, do it from your crouching medium punch, because this thing moves you forward a lot, and no matter what this distance is, it's gonna be punishable, so really just don't do that. Please, 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 please. So yeah, you can do that. And then if the opponent starts to respect the fact that, you know, oh, they're pretty good at spacing out their buttons, they get these advantageous things, and a lot of the time when I try to poke back, they end up hitting me with this fan toss, which is really annoying. Then you could start to go for your gimmicky stuff where you start to hold down the button. And when you go for this, I recommend going for the light version, because if you have gone for this whole gimmick where you charge this like 32 frame, like 30 frames of recovery projectile, you want to make sure you get your pressure. And if you do the heavy version, you can see the fan bounces so high that the opponent can, like, I don't know, backdash or forward dash or do some kind of weird stuff to get out of this situation. So if you've gone for the big risk, you want to make sure you get the reward. So go for the light version that just gives you a bunch of frame advantage. You can drive rush in or dash in, do whatever you like, do whatever you need to do, but just, yeah, don't give them that much of a gap, especially if you've tried to go for such like a risky gimmicky thing. Just, yeah, take the advantage. So that is like the simple version of her fan pressure, particularly when the opponent is blocking. Of course, it's all better when the opponent is in burnout. And the only other time that you kind of use her fans in cool ways, I guess, is when the opponent is knocked down. And of course, from those sorts of situations, particularly after this target combo, you get a lot of advantage from the regular or the charged versions. So having the opponent knocked down is of course an easy way of getting all sorts of shenanigans going. But, you know, the real game is when they're blocking, because that's what's going to happen most of the time. So you just want to know, like, okay, if I have a spaced out normal, like spaced out crouching medium kick, if I throw my light fan, it can possibly be +1. Or if I go for something like this, it can be possibly +1. And if I'm also at this distance and I don't want the opponent to hit through or do anything, if I know they're going to counter poke, I can try going for that one. Especially after my lights, that's really good to go for there, because they're going to do something and they're going to get hit by this and you get a little bit of a combo from it. And then if you have the time or the distance, well then I guess you can hold them down and start doing some actually ridiculous stuff from the regular held fans at this distance. Or I guess if you're holding it down, you can also try spending the meter just to throw absolute crap ton of stuff on the screen. But yeah, fan toss pressure is interesting, but of course gets gimmicky. And where she also has very simple versions of keeping herself safe is, yeah, with the light Ryu Enbu. You can do this like either in neutral or in the same spacing situation that you would use the light fan toss to make it +1. But I think in these situations most of the time it's better to go for the light fan toss, because that actually becomes +1, whereas this is only ever -3, and if it hits the opponent, it's also not that great. +3. So yeah, that's a simple block pressure with Mai. Nothing crazy, but good to know how you should use your fans. And that's all. Thanks for watching, bye bye.